Hey guys, Dorky, what if you're back with another better video? I'm here with what if Deku had a light hit that like button and sub so I can make more content like this, and with that let's begin. Midoriya Izuku can be a hero. The silence stretched as the words began to stink in. Not he could be a hero? How could all of them say that? Was he playing some kind of sick joke on him? Then again, he was the symbol of peace. He wouldn't do that, right? Before he knew it, panic bubbled in his throat. Were these words nothing more than a cruel joke? One more way for the universe to bring him down. After all, how could someone as useless as him possibly become a hero? His ears were ringing, dark spots formed at the edge of his vision. Yet, he was stopped from having a full-blown panic attack by All Might's booming voice. The sound cut through his ears. My boy, my quirk has been the subject of countless interviews and questions, but I always try to redirect the media and deflect their questions, because, until this day, my quirk, known as One for All, is a stockpiling quirk, a power passed on every new generation to the next to only those worthy of wielding its power. Wait, what? Izuku could only stare with wide eyes as he gazed upon the older, taller hero standing in front of him. It didn't make any sense. Quirks were supposed to be hereditary. Ever since their appearance, not a single one had sense. Quirks were supposed to be hereditary. Ever since their appearance, not a single one had been passed on from a person to another. It was impossible. All Might smiled softly at the mumbling teenager. All Might, quirkless? But why was he telling him about his power? Wait. What are you trying to say? Izuku didn't want to get his hopes up. For all he knew, All Might just wanted to ask him about Kaken, or if he knew someone worthy of such an honor, because it sure wasn't playing old useless Deku. I've grown a week and old, my boy. After the incident 5 years ago, I don't know how much time I have left as the symbol of peace before I'll be forced to retire. Electric Blue met Emerald eyes and held them for a few seconds. The world needs a new pillar of justice, and I think that you would be the perfect candidate. I know this is sudden, but accepting this would mean taking on a huge responsibility and burden. However, I believe that you, young Midoriya, will make a great hero. How was he supposed to respond to that? How could he possibly decline such an offer? But wasn't it selfish for someone as unworthy as him to take this kind of power? And what if his mom found out? His guts twisted at the thought and a shiver ran through his spine. No, he would make sure to hide this from her at all costs. He felt so overwhelmed. These dangerous feelings bubbled up inside of him, the fear of his mother finding out, the thoughts at the back of his mind telling him, yelling no. A useless kid like him could never be worthy of this kind of honor, but at the front of those feelings, he could feel his excitement and hopefulness rising to the surface. And weren't these feelings dangerous indeed? Izuku looked up, gathering as much courage as he could muster. His eyes rimmed with determination as he uttered the words that would change his life forever. I accept. A small smile threatened to overtake his expression, and he could finally become a hero. Maybe life would finally be in his favor. Well, it was good while it lasted. Izuku's good mood somehow lasted half an hour after All Might had left. He eventually realized that he was still technically homeless for the weekend. After all, he would need to find somewhere to sleep after a little while he finally settled in an old kid's playhouse, isolated part of the park. Curling up on himself, sleeping threatened to overtake him. His thoughts were a world of possibilities for the days to come. He thought about what kind of training he would do with All Might tomorrow. It was a good thing he had packed some running clothes and sneakers. He just hoped that tomorrow he would wake up and it wouldn't all be just a dream. The next morning Izuku hastily got up and ran into the public bathrooms of the gas station near the park. After changing out of his current clothing and into his somewhat acceptable workout clothes, he made his way down the trash-filled beach. All Might had asked to meet him there yesterday. Now that he thought about it, why was he meeting the number one hero there? He was too much in shock yesterday to question it. However, now his mind was racing with the reasons for his specific meeting. He arrived there, faster than he realized. The beach was just a couple of blocks away. Surely waiting for him there was none other than the skinny skeleton figure of the symbol of peace. Once he noticed him, the man quickly made his way towards him. "Ah, young Midoriya." Right on time, All Might's booming voice greeted him. "It was way too early for this tone. You might be wondering why I asked you to meet me here, right?" he continued, a smart blooming in his features as he gestured to the palace of trash consuming the beach around them. Hey. All Might, yeah, I was kind of wondering actually, the green net replied hesitantly as if expecting to be scolded for his curiosity. "Well, you see, my boy, although I do feel as though you are worthy of going for all, I fear that you are still not ready to take it on." "Ready? Ready for what? Some kind of requirement to be able to handle the quirk, maybe?" Looking up into the frailman's eyes, Izuku had felt a little more at ease looking into those eyes. "We need to train that fragile body of yours. At your current state you wouldn't be able to handle the backlash, my quirk. We have 10 months before UA's entrance exam, and yes, UA is the best hero academy in Japan and even the world. Its entrance exam was nearly impossible to have with a weak quirky teeth, let alone quirkless. Maybe its super would finally have a chance." "Oh, okay, but what are we doing here exactly?" the boy asked. "I scanned the area around it." "Well, you see, Midoriya-kun, a hero needs to contribute to even the smallest things in society, like looking after the environment and general health of the public," the taller man answered. "And these 10 months I've been restricting you to a tight schedule to help get you in shape. Clearing this beach will just be yours as a future hero. But the question here is, if you are willing to pour your all to improve and earn this power of mine." "You can count on the All Might," the boy replied, I lit with a fiery determination glance that wasn't there the first time they had met. All Might couldn't be more satisfied with his choice of successor. Therefore, begin 10 months of pure hell. Izuku woke up every day at the crack of dawn, to avoid running into his mother and having to explain where he's going and why her finding it would be a living nightmare. Scott's twisted at the mere thought of this scenario and what it meant for him. All Might, on the other hand, was working him to the bone. Every day he would go out on a run around the city, and then they met at the beach where he would try to clear some part of the trash that was consuming it. To say that Izuku was tired was an understatement, but the feeling he got every day at the end of his workout was clear. He was one step closer to accomplishing his dream. It all made it worth it, a new feeling making its way into this heart of feeling he was scared he lost one day. Hope. Izuku had just come back from his morning training with All Might. It was nearly 2 months after that day at the park, planning to sneak into his room before his mother woke up. He slowly opened the front door. However, he was mad by his mother's piercing glare instead. It threatened to burn holes inside of him. His blood ran cold, shivers going down his spine. How could he possibly think that he could get away with this without her noticing? Of course, she would find out now. All that was to be done is to stand there. Staying there and wait for whatever punishment she had in store for him. A sheep waiting to be slaughtered. His mother gaze narrowed, calculating his every move. "Where were you, brat?" I went out for a run," he answered nervously, knowing that silence would aggravate her mood. He looked at her, finally noticing to have empty bottle she held in her hand and the way her feet swayed as she stepped closer. Inko had woken up to an empty house, opting to drown her mystery in red wine. Even her useless son had left her. The irony. Izuku eyed the bottle warily. With his mother's current state, there is no chance that this would end well. She took a step closer, eyes looking at him, but not really seeing. Her mind was somewhere else, looking at him, but seeing nothing but mystery and pain. The green net backed away slowly, his mind screaming at him to run, his flight instincts taken over. This was nothing like the usual drunk episodes his mother had. This wasn't the screaming and crying stakes you would usually be in. This calm and threatening aura that surrounded her made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. Inko raised the bottle to her mouth and drank the rest of its contents in one go. Izuku could see the exact movement sheet seemed to decide her next course of action. Malicious intent poured out of her as she lifted the bottle into the air with her mirror telekinesis square and slammed it against the wall next to his face, some of the shards of course and embedding themselves into his cheeks. She had used her quirk to change the direction of the small shards of the glass that had shattered. Years of abuse had written his pain tolerance, but the shock has still sent him tumbling to the ground. An hand raised his cheek as he could feel dampness begin to spread. His mind fakely registered what had happened. Merely noting the fact that this dampness was a somewhat mix of both his blood and the tears that had started to roll without his consent. Did his mother hate him that much? Still, after all, it's been this way for years. He didn't know why he was still surprised at this point. Her actions and hatred towards him should be familiar by now. Maybe part of him still liked to think that things could get better between them. With shaky movements, he tried to get back up, but a harsh kick to his stomach and went to his hip sent him tumbling over again. "Day down, brat, I'm leaving for the weekend. Make yourself useful and clean this mess up, you worthless piece of shit." She sidestepped behind her, but Izuku didn't have it in him to try and get up anymore. He curled up on himself and cried how much time had passed while he just sat there. Izuku didn't know. He must have fallen asleep at some point because the light coming out of the shaded window was dimmer than when he had gotten home. Uncertain movements, he made his way to the bathroom, taking the first aid kit or what was left of it from under the counter. He hissed as he took out one of the bigger and deeper shards that's embedded in his cheeks, body moving on autopilot as he patched himself up. Once finished, he looked at his handiwork and decided it was enough for now. He made his way downstairs, determined to take advantage of most of the Inko-free time he had. Maybe enjoy some fresh air to get his mind off things. He bought a couple of blocks from his neighborhood, passing multiple alleys in storefronts. As he passed one of the alleys he normally used as a shortcut to get to the beach, he heard forces talking, laughing at something he kept from behind a dumpster. Curiosity overtaking him, his gaze was met with three teenagers, probably his age, concerning someone at the back of the alley. They were laughing and taunting him, and said boy was back against a wall. He had wild purple hair that someone defy gravity. His shoulders were tense, but he seemed resigned to his feet. His eyes had some kind of blackness and void in them. The void that Izuku was so familiar with when he looked in the mirrors on bad days. Hey now. Just admit it already, you were born to be nothing more than a villain. One of the teenagers was taunted, "Don't talk to him, you idiot, he'll brainwash you." A boy shorter than Izuku but with a bigger build continued, "I'd like to see him try that after I'm done beating his jaws." And the team kicked in the purple hair boy in the guts, sending him toppling on the ground, bent over and wheezing. The third boy had some kind of mutated quirk that made him look like a lizard. Scales form on his neck and hands, sharpening his rectangle bull claws. He swiped at the kid's arm, creating a deep dash there. The boy it's in pain but still didn't respond. The lizard boy prepared himself to keep the helpless kid again, but Izuku couldn't just stand there anymore. He moved without thinking, running at the group and stepping between the purple hair boy and his tormentors. At the time only one thought was going inside his mind. "I'm not going to let anyone suffer the way I did. Never." That is the end for now. If you like it, or if I should change it, hit that like and sub so I can post more content like this. Till then, see you soon.